Good day, good night, and welcome to World Cup Today, June 6th, 2018. That's like 8 days away. 8 days. 8 days a week until the World Cup, Duane. And I'm getting excited. Today it's going to be Group F. Yes, Group F as the letter after E. I have to sing the song in my head for the alphabet. Yes, thank you, Sesame Street. But still pretty good with it. Group F today. But Duane, before we start talking about Group F, 8 days, any routine, anything particular that you need to do still before you get ready for the World Cup 8 days out?
There's something happening other than the Stanley Cup final right now.
Well, okay, fine. If you're just discovering us, first of all, subscribe below the screen here on YouTube and subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. And then you'll realize that Duane is a soccer fanatic, loves soccer, any type of soccer pretty much, and loves the Washington Capitals.
Oddly, because I'm not from Washington. No, what's my routine during the World Cup? It's really just to sit and stare at a screen for a month, basically, because it is the greatest single show on earth. It's why I fell in love with this sport. It's everything to me. I told someone, I actually had a text message exchange with someone the other day, and they were asking me what my personal heaven would be. Don't ask. I have strange text message exchanges. And what I answered was the first two games of the World Cup group stage.
Wow. Yeah. Cool. That's fair. And, people are wondering, what's going to be the schedule? Well, the way it works, there's a game at 8 a.m. in the morning most days here, except the first day, of course. But then most days it's 8 a.m. So 10 minutes after the first game, which should be around 10 a.m. anyway, should be our normal time, we'll come live World Cup Today with reactions, very fresh reactions from the morning game and, of course, the two games of the afternoon of the day prior. So this will be our schedule during the World Cup, live daily here, youtube.com/sportspodcasting network, and anywhere you get your podcast, as well as soon as the show is done. Now, Duane, Group F, a group that is interesting. Mexico, of course, biggest representative of CONCACAF, and maybe the one team from CONCACAF that we know more in this World Cup. Do you have any expectations from this Mexico side? There's a lot of rumblings. Fans were chanting 4 days ago at Estaca in the bleachers, "Fire Osorio, Fuerza Osorio, Fuerza Osorio." And you know what? That's a bit crazy 12 days out of the World Cup.
A bit crazy, but Mexico, a bit crazy kind of summarizes Mexico at the World Cup, except for that they do tend to always get out of the group. Mexico's a good team. They really are. They're the best team in this confederation, as you just said. It's a team that we watch pretty closely. It's a team that I don't dislike, but they tend to have a little bit of drama surrounding them. We make fun of France, we make fun of Italy, we make fun of other countries in the world that have sort of a lot of outside influences on them. But there are very few cultures out there. There are very few football cultures out there that are as cray, bluntly, as Mexico. So we'll see.
Irrational might be another way to define some portion of the fans. I always remember a conversation I've had with Tom Marshall of ESPN, which we had on the show a few times, and hopefully we can get him on the show during the World Cup. What I was asking Tom was like, where does irrationality come from? And it's kind of crazy because the Mexican national team supporter base is basically every fan of football or the country. And there's allegiances that are separate from the country sometimes. When you're a Puma fan, you can't really cheer for a Club America player. Yeah, you can, you not, yeah. So there's a lot of that disparity. But as well, you have a feeling that Mexico never achieves their full potential. And the fingers on the trigger of the firing very, very quick. And the fans want things to change. If you're looking at the last cycle for Mexico, last 4 years have been one of the most successful in the last century for El Tri, and that is, yes, a surprise in a way. And even though Osorio might not make this team play in a attacking flair, giving a pride aspect to the fans, but it is a team that is moldable, that you can manage a bit differently depending on who you're playing. And guess what? If you're playing Germany and if you're playing Sweden, you can't really align yourself the same way, especially not if you're playing Germany. Like, okay, everyone behind the ball and hope, pray.
Yeah. Mexico, I'm going to give you a comparison. You know what Mexico is? It's England with more spice.
It's England, but even more crazy and irrational sometimes.
And well, they're both crazy and irrational in different ways. But no, England with more spice is how I would describe them. Those are both countries that are very good. They are very good. They're both top 20 countries in the world consistently over, not in the FIFA rankings, but just in general. If you were to rank your countries from watching the games and sort of putting them in their correct place, that they're both top 20 countries that way. And at the same time, being like the 16th and 17th best countries in the world means you're not probably going to win the World Cup, but you're always going to be there. So Mexico is England with a little more spice and a lot more guacamole.
Of course, we'll get to Germany in a second, and it's almost Germany, they're so good they don't even have to include one of the best players of Manchester City this season because, well, they have other good players and they're thinking about a team and not just an all-star team. We'll get to this in a second. But when we think about Mexico, are they clearly the second best team here? Because we got Germany, Mexico, Sweden, and South Korea. South Korea, yes, it's not 2002, and you're not playing the World Cup at home, so you're not getting out of the group. That's almost for sure. But then Mexico and Sweden. Sweden can afford to not even bring their most famous player, not their best player at this point, and far from it, and he's got a bit of an attitude problem in LA right now, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. But Sweden can afford to not bring this man to the World Cup. What is the ceiling for Sweden and Mexico? Are they interchangeable? Can Sweden, quote-unquote, upset Mexico in the second spot in this group if possible?
Well, yeah, they got out of Europe. They got out of Europe in the playoff, but nonetheless, they got out of Europe. So you can't sleep on them. Sweden's a very solid team. They're a team that is not going to be embarrassed in any game in this group. And I wouldn't completely sleep on the South Koreans either. So this is a pretty stable group of top to bottom. But yeah, I'm going to lean towards Mexico over the Swedes and the South Koreans. But it's pretty even in a lot of ways. It's not an easy group, and it's a terrible draw for Mexico too as well. But that's a different story. They got to get out first. The Germans are pretty happy with it, I'm sure. But yeah.
Well, the German perspective, in my opinion, is Germany is a team that's not afraid of anyone. They like to be challenged. They like to test themselves, and with the roster, they do have a bit of a mix of the style of play they do play, of course, the Ozil and the Muller and this great group of players. But you do have as well a mix of different tactical possibilities. And when you have a group with this amount of different type of football being played all at the same time, a game versus Mexico, if you're Germany, and a game versus South Korea and Sweden will all be very different from each other, being able to test yourself, and you almost want to be tested during the group stage, so you go into the knockout stage with questions already answered, and those confident moments that you get boosted by great play in the group stage comes in, and you want to continue that. So when you face an Argentina look, the second seed of this group, the team that finishes second in Group F, has a very high probability of having Brazil in the round of 16. So you're looking at a team that is going to have to, if you slip once, if you're Germany and you slip in this group, you're facing Brazil in the round of 16, which could be the final way before the final. But this is interesting to me, how Germany needs to win this to have a better clear-cut road to the final. But then if you win this group, means you played well, because the other teams are pretty decent in a, like you mentioned, stable group, or at least a group that I would put all the teams in tier 1, 2, and maybe 3. There's no tier 4 team in here. There's no Iran. There's no Saudi Arabia. So you don't have a tier 4 team, in my mind, in this group. So testing yourself in this group might give you the boost of confidence and momentum needed to maybe get a shock and surprising result in around the 16 or in the quarters.
Well, no, yeah, Germany's not unbeatable. They didn't win Euro, right? Like they're not unbeatable, but what they are is consistent. They always perform. They never let themselves down. Sometimes they'll get beat by a pretty good team as well in the knockout stage, but no one looks at Germany and says, "Oh, Germany, they might have a bad World Cup because they go up and down." Like we talk about France. Like well, when we talk about France, we'll talk about that sort of inconsistency that's there. There's that. It's not the same thing with Germany. I mean, there's only been one World Cup final in our lifetime that hasn't had either Germany or Brazil in it. Like they're consistent.
2006, Italy, France. Outside of that, I think it was always either Brazil or Germany. Yeah, I never realized that. It's true. Yeah, I guess.
I know it's a crazy stat, but yeah, no. The point being that they never let themselves down. They always perform up to expectations. Sometimes they will get beat, but they always perform up to expectations. And this is the defending champions. You cannot not give them their credit. It is stupid to pick against them. I probably will, because that's the other part of that is because there's always a sexier team out there. But the Germans are very, very good. So yeah, I do like you mentioned there is no tier 4 team in this group. That's why I like this group. I actually think this is maybe the best top to bottom group in the tournament. I don't know if it's a group of death because I think there is a dominant team in it, but it's a pretty consistent group top to bottom.
I'll call it Group F for fair. It's a fair group. It's kind of fair. If you're any of this team, you're like, all right. We're South Korea. We kind of expected we'll have a giant in our group, but I'll take it. It's interesting. Just to finish on this thought, talking about different type of soccer, of football. I've seen an image today, a meme, and I have to address it. It's kind of hilarious. Germany, attack till we die. Then you have like Spain, tiki taka. Then you got like Brazil, yoga bonito. Then you got Portugal, give the ball to Ronaldo.
Canada, pray. But
Canada, watch on TV. United States, watch on TV. Oh, Italy, cheering for anybody but Sweden. That's what Italy's doing. Anyone but Sweden. And I guess you're fine. Just to finish this segment, Duane, one stat that's really important is 9 out of the last 10 World Cup played on European soil has been won by a European team. Before 2014, no European team has won a World Cup. In South America, that has been done with Germany. Will this World Cup, like 9 out of the last 10 played in European soil, will end up being won by a European team? Or is there any other team from any other confederation that could break that spell?
Well, yeah, there is. Spoiler alert, I'm leaning towards a European pick when we come down to actually pick my World Cup champion. But Brazil, for one. There are other teams out there, of course. And also, is Russia really in Europe? I don't know. Is it really in Europe?
When I was a kid and when I was learning geography, there was such a thing as Eurasia. There was such a thing as the mix between Europe and Asia was Russia and the Balkans and that. So maybe, is it truly in Europe? I don't know. Depends where. Sochi, kind of, yeah. Do Ural or Siberia? Yeah, you're closer to China.
The final will be in Europe.
That's true.
Geographically.
I guess that is accurate. The final is in Europe, and I guess maybe we'll see if a European team can win this. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have a little discussion about, not this singer, but we'll have a little discussion about FIFA 18 EA Sports. They do a simulation every year, and we have the results of that simulation. Who will win the World Cup? They have been right about 5 times out of the last 6 predictions.
Все равно один раз умирать. Так под песню разгульную, вольную будем жить и любить и мечтать.
World Cup Today live daily during the 2018 FIFA World Cup with Duane, Rollins, and Kevin Laramee. Catch all the podcast versions anywhere you get your podcasts. Look for World Cup Today and the Sports Podcasting Network live daily at youtube.com/sports podcasting network, and versions with no advertisement are available at patreon.com/sports podcasting network. For $5 a month, you get no publicity, and that's a bargain. Speaking of bargain, Duane, the singer is a bargain singer, a bargain Russian singer. But the EA Sports has made its simulation public. It has played this tournament over 10,000 times, and the results are in. Drum roll, please. According to EA Sports, the final will be between France and Germany, with France scoring the winning goal in extra time.
I kind of like France, but the thing about those things is it's based on individual talent, because they're looking at the rankings, and France is incredibly on top to bottom.
Yep, and it's based on simulations of the engine and all the data and metrics they have on both teams, and it's played 10,000 times, and they're rarely errorless. Usually they're pretty accurate, at least with the finalists, and sometimes with just the winner. NHL, usually they have it right. Not this year, not a few years ago, when they predicted Montreal and Nashville. That didn't pan out, but Nashville did, and that was a surprise. This year, nobody expected Vegas, and I still believe it's fixed. In FIFA 18, they usually pick the right one, and all the different same type of publicity stunt they do, because look, face it, they do it so people like us talk about it, and mainstream media talk about it, and it's in newspapers and on articles, but there's usually something to it, because there's a high rate of success. There's a high rate of predictability of success there. And 5 times out of the last 6 World Cup, I believe, I might be wrong here, but according to my research, this was true, they have been right. So are we getting ready, and when I say we, I mean I, to celebrate this summer?
Are you German, Kevin? No.
I'm French. Français, bâtard.
Ich bin Duane. No, I mean, look, like I said, the FIFA rankings are based on their, the quality, the numbers behind the players that are playing on the pitch or on your game, and those are really high research, which is another topic altogether. Is like how much resources go into scouting those teams so they get an accurate representation of real life, and maybe some teams should hire these people because they are pretty accurate normally.
Never mind hiring them. I just want Adam Brass to start playing FIFA 18. Just start playing. You'll discover, oh man, look at this guy from the championship. Oh wait, I can maybe get him. He's 71 in here, and I don't have a 71 in my team. Let's get him in real life.
We always talk about analytics, like there's a number of people. Yeah, I would actually pay to watch a team that picked its entire team based on video game rankings. I would love to see that. That would be fun.
Hey, Moneyball worked. Is this the next evolution of Moneyball? Literally, FIFA it. You're FIFA 18 it. You're gaming it. I guess that's better. But it's kind of a way of scouting, and we all know there's the way they do. And here, for the majority of players, is not. But for the players that are very accurate in the game, you kind of have all the right statistics, the speed. It's all those things are measured and kind of brought into the virtual world in the right way. But it gives that prediction some credibility at the end of the day. And France being with this, maybe have they surpassed Germany as clear-cut favorite, or in the words of a famous personality, to beat the man, you gotta beat the man. Does France need to beat the man, or does France just be the man?
Woo! No, you got to beat the man to be the man. But we'll talk about France soon. They're incredibly good. no doubt about it. But there are questions around them that relate to their mental game, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. But yeah, Germany France would not be a final that anyone would be shocked to see. So, I don't know, in terms of FIFA, I don't know. I mean, spoiler alert, I'm gonna disclose something here. I, for about 5 years, was involved in the research team for Football Manager on the MLS side. So you're kind of talking about people like me.
That explains a lot. That's why my name's in the game. I'm like, that's why. That's why I report on the game on a guy who's going to be signed in the Canadian Premier League.
Maybe, I don't know, but yeah, it's so they're relying on local experts. The one thing that those rankings generally get right is sort of those attributes like speed and strength that aren't really, those are things that are easy to see. So ultimately, though, what I'm saying is that it's people like me that are helping rank these folks. So take it with a grain of salt. But as you say, when you're talking about Germany and France, these are not players that people are unfamiliar with. So, yeah, they're pretty decent opportunities, pretty decent shout right there. Let me ask you this question, though. Like, I know you have a bit of a France affiliation, but would that be a final you'd be excited a bit? Because I kind of want to see a different team in there. I think it's due for us to have a team that's not expected to be there.
Just switch Germany for any team you want, and I'm happy about it. Just put France in the final. I can make do, but I kind of have to agree. And what other team could be interesting to see in the final? And the possibilities here, let's be pragmatic here. Like Saudi Arabia is not making the final. Like I don't know if there's one person on planet who's like really high on Saudi Arabia, but I'm sorry, sir or ma'am, it's not gonna happen. So interesting team that could have there. Could a Mexico? I doubt that a Mexico could break the wall of the quarters or even the semis. Does England have the generation, the golden generation? No. I know, Duane, you're going to be quick to say no, but I was listening to Dele Alli give his thoughts 2 days ago, or 2 days ago in England, and that's funny because one of the rare time in England that the national team and its players are really open, and it's almost like media day in the Super Bowl, that there's no other comparison where everyone just really there, open, and they're just answering any questions you ask them. And Dele Alli was asked, what's the mentality? How do you come into this tournament with a very young team? And the fact that they're a young team for England might be good because they don't have the trauma of the past. They don't remember 1990 because they weren't born yet. So, you have that particular benefit of being young. Or if you're a year old, you don't remember. But Dele Alli is saying, look, we have to go in this tournament with the mentality that we can win it all. And we got a great striker. We got Harry Kane. You're a wizard, Harry. Harry Kane's there. You got other great players. Sterling. Sterling, if goes on to form and can use his speed and his attributes on the wing. You got a Dele Alli. So you do have a certain amount of firepower, and you have to go in this tournament with a mentality that we're as good as anyone else. We can beat anyone else. Are we better as a team than maybe a Portugal that's really top heavy? But then, there's one Ronaldo. So you can't clone him yet. Maybe that will happen. 10 years from now might be interesting to see Portugal because they might have found a way to clone Ronaldo. I don't know about you, but Ronaldo seems to have kids popping up here and there in less than 9 months. So I don't know.
Allegedly. Allegedly.
No, what I mean, like, I didn't even know he had a girlfriend. And like, boom, triplets. I'm like, geez. I'm not convinced those are not clones. And if they start scoring goals in 10 years, you know where the goals are coming from. But that's what I mean. Do we have an outside possibilities with like in England? And I don't know. It's kind of hard to find a team outside of what I call my top 3 favorites: France, Germany, and Brazil.
Croatia.
I can see it happen, but I see so many things needed to be done right for them to
it would have to go perfect for sure, but like that's your dark horse.
To have a giant fall before to face them, and they get like a lucky break in the quarters maybe, and then that's where it's important, right? As much as the semi are important, in my mind, it all changes in the quarterfinals. And I've seen this happen in knockout stage of soccer tournament before. with my own eyes live, and that was 2014. Yes, it was 2015 CONCACAF Champions League. I know I'm not comparing the two in the soccer level, just the quarterfinal aspect versus semi and final. You're in a quarterfinal. You got an opportunity, but you don't have the pressure, right? You don't have the pressure, oh, we have to play so conservatively and so defensively because the final is right there. We don't want to beat ourselves. And then you play with a certain amount of anticipation. You play with a certain amount of care. You're too careful, and you have that fraction of a second more of thinking, and you get beat. In the quarters, you're kind of free, especially if you don't have any expectations of success. You get into the quarterfinals, and you have a possibility of having a surprise game, and you win. You beat a giant, and then you find yourself in the semis with no pressure because you're not expected to be there, and things go your way because the other team with the pressure might be a bit conservative. So for me, if Croatia gets into the quarterfinals with a possible upset there, maybe you have your clear-cut road to the final.
Yeah, I mean, Croatia would probably line up with Spain in a quarter, but it's weird to me, Kevin. It's weird to me that the World Cup has not created a shock finalist yet. It really hasn't. I mean, it's not just the champion. The champions have always been among the 5 or 6 best teams in the world that we always talk about. I mean, France 98 was maybe a bit of an outlier, but the fact that we're talking about France being an outlier says that all you need to know here. But then you look at the European Championships. The Euro has produced some crazy results. Denmark has won the Euro. Greece has won the Euro. Portugal has won the Euro.
We forget about Portugal. Portugal was a surprise against France at home. Still hurts. Looking at you, Eder. Jeez. Moving on. Still stings. But yeah, you're right. Portugal. Surprise. Greece, 2004. Jeez. How did that happen without scoring a goal?
Well, Denmark won a tournament without qualifying, folks. They didn't qualify for 92. They were added when Yugoslavia exploded. Insane. And then they won. Hi, Henrik.
Yeah, you actually never know what you're going to get. And maybe you're right. Maybe this year we'll have a surprise. But maybe it will wait till 2026. 48 teams in there has to bring some more chaos. Yes, it'll be a lot more top heavy and you'll have blowouts. But with more teams, with more underdogs and more favorites, eventually it's going to lead to an upset here or there. And maybe in 6 years' time, we will have this surprise final that you are 6 years' time, 8 years' time. We're going to have the surprise final that you are talking about. As always, you can follow Duane on social media at 24th Minute and myself at Kev Laramee. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. for another edition of World Cup Today. And until next time, as always, you can give us a subscribe, a follow. That equals a pat on the back for us. And you can do so at youtube.com/sportspodcast network. The little big red button, or anywhere you get your podcast, look for World Cup Today. Hit the subscribe button and help us with a little 5-star reviews. Until tomorrow, have a great soccer.